So we already had a couple of discussions around trends. This morning we heard about EPUB and HTML5 and how that could serve some communities. Leonard just explained his approach to do an evolutionary way forward around PDF and address needs that haven't been addressed so far in the community that's already using PDF. I'm trying to take a slightly different angle, and we will have yet another angle right after me by Bill. And I just thought about what I think at least PDF 3.0 should be like, from my point of view. And I'm also taking a look at what we have today and what I think would be a good direction to move into. This is an overview. I will talk about bloat, weight, and gaps, and about canonical and hybrid. And you will have to bear with me for a moment to find out what I mean by these 5 words. Bloat. We have almost 20 years. Next year is the 20th birthday of the PDF format. So we have 20 years of introducing new features all the time, a lot of very good stuff, of extending existing features. Annotations just got extended several times to more types of annotations, just as an example. And a lot of refining, just making stuff that's there even slightly better by adding a few final touches to it. And very surprisingly, to those who are at home in the IT industry, for almost 20 years, we kept it fully backward compatible. If you created a PDF file in 1993, chances are you would just open it now in a current implementation of a PDF viewer and it will just work. So it's not that we decided after 10 years, we are tired of this way of doing it, let's completely overhaul the whole thing. Just still works. Of course, if you take a PDF file from today and you launch Adobe Reader, if you have some device where you can launch it, could be problems. On the other hand, if you have a simple, this kind of trivial PDF file, it might even still work. And some of the files just do, actually. It does have some side effects. There is stuff that's there for legacy reasons. And there's also stuff I would call polymorphism. And I will just give one example for both of these. If you look at text and the many ways you can put text on a page and maybe assign some meaning to it or not in terms of Unicode mapping or whatever, I think you have probably 30 or 40 ways of putting character A on the page. And all of them are used, probably, by some developer or other. So any piece of software consuming such PDF files will have to be prepared to see PostScript Type 1 fonts, simple fonts, or CID fonts, or TrueType fonts, or OpenType fonts, with a standard encoding, with differences, with just symbolic encoding, and then have the meaning in the Unicode table, and whatever. There's all kinds of combinations. Something it's a good situation to be in for validation developers because it's so complicated. Not many people can do the validation. But I can tell you there's not that much money you can make out of validation. You'd rather be productive. So I think that kind of causes a number of problems. It's nobody to be blamed for it. That's what happens in the course of 20 years. Even if you take the best engineers and they kind of iterate version by version and create new features. But anyway, it does lead to some load on the conceptual level. So there's a lot of stuff. The standard is now almost 1,000 pages in the ISO format. It would have been probably 1,500, 2,000 pages in the old format, which was smaller pages with slightly less content on them per page. So it's huge, and we're still adding stuff. So, and it's of course very often very good stuff, but it does add. This also results in some weight. It's not so much that the PDF files become heavy, rather the opposite. There have been mechanisms like compressed object streams that even offered some additional level of compression on the low level of the syntax. There had been additional compression schemes like JPEG2 and JPEG 2000, which could even make images smaller than before. There have been techniques like MRC that even take scan pages and can make them very small. So it's rather the weight that you run into when you develop PDF processors. Because you have to prepare yourself for many contingencies and have to deal with a lot of complexity. I haven't been in the transparency session earlier today because I was in the other room. but I guess some of you learned something about the complexity of transparency. And it's already challenging if you have all the horsepower on your desktop machine that you have. But envision you have a small mobile phone and you want to create a decent PDF viewer, really a decent one, not a quick and dirty one. You want to comply with ISO 32000-1 because it's the standard, and you want to get it right. You're looking at quite a bit of complexity. And then you have to deal with various font formats and various encodings and various this and various that. It just adds. You have to write more source code, and the executable will be larger, and processing time will increase, and the impact on the CPU, and in the end on the battery in your phone, all that is going to happen. And of course, PDF was not designed initially for smartphones. They didn't even exist at that time. And then there are some gaps. Some of these gaps are that while PDF works very well on some devices, like on a desktop computer, it's probably the best you can think of. But once you look at other form factors, and that has been discussed already today and yesterday to a certain degree, it's like the iPhone or whatever 3, 4, 5-inch mobile phone form factor is not perfect for looking at an A4 or letter-sized page, not to mention anything larger than that. Reading a magazine or newspaper that has been delivered in PDF format just as a kind of digital copy of the print masters is no big fun. You can fix it to a certain degree by coming up with a smart user interface, but still it's sometimes really not fun. And then also when it comes to non-visual display of content, something that is thought of at this moment mostly in the area of accessible PDF because blind people need it. But if you think about it some more, there are maybe other people in other situations where it would be nice if you could just access the content through the means other than looking at a screen. And whether that could, for example, be text-to-speech. Some of this is being done already, so there has been a reflow feature in Adobe Reader for I don't know how many years.
It's gone, I think. It's gone now, right?
It's there. No, it's there. Command 4 if you.
It's Command 4.
And sometimes it works very good, sometimes it doesn't work so good, but then you have all kinds of complexities in files, and so it can be done. One thing that's very difficult to do today is to influence how it is done. So it's not impossible to kind of do something around that. But it would be nice if you not only could control the display of the page in the PDF format, that's easy because that's what PDF does, but to kind of be able to say, if somebody reflows this, please do it this way, and not just the default way. And the same thing with text. Some of us have listened to a presentation this morning by René Jean, how a screen reader for blind people reads content aloud. And it seems he was very happy with the voice, but many other people would say, well, I would like a different voice because it could be nicer, and maybe it could also be read by a voice in a nicer way by stressing certain parts of the content and making breaks here and there and whatever. So some styling of let's say, a text equivalent of the content could also be nice. It's very difficult to achieve at this moment starting from PDF. So I have two things to share with you about the direction in which this could move. I was speaking about bloat and weight. So it's really, you have to write a big piece of software to accommodate all the requirements in ISO 32000. Wouldn't it be nice if you could trim this down? Instead of using that many image compression algorithms, we just use one. Why not limit the options to put text on a page to just one? I'm putting it really to the extreme. So let's make a choice. Just let's do TrueType CID font, full stop. And not PostScript and not OpenType, whatever. Just as an example. And for images, let's do JPEG for whatever reason. And do the same thing in many other ways. Also, when it comes down to writing a content stream, like a page description, there's so many ways you can write down the same thing. You can put every character one by one on the page, or you could just write the whole line in one go, and then have the right operator to put it on the page. avoid all the nesting that can happen. Like today, using FormX objects, you can nest to any degree of complexity that you feel like. Maybe even limit transparency and just boil it down to what is really the most important part of transparency, like blend mode normal and multiply, because the letter is really interesting. That's it. And prohibit any nesting deeper than one level. And it's just kind of offering some examples here. And by doing so, we may remove some of the needs for developing certain tools because they don't have to take care of the other compression algorithms and the other ways of putting text on a page and certain rather demanding ways of writing a content stream. At the same time, it would still just be a subset of whatever is the current PDF standard. You may want to call it PDF Lite. So it's still okay to have the full PDF standard and files that comply with the full set, but you would have the option to create PDF Lite files. And then for these files, it would be sufficient to have a PDF Lite reader, and they can do stuff with them. So it's not about sacrificing functionality necessarily, but just bringing down certain encoding options. And the other aspect is do something about other form factors or other ways of presenting content. And one approach to do that would be to think of a hybrid file, a file that at its base is still just a normal PDF file. And then use some mechanism that already exists so that will have to be combined with PDF to do interesting other things. And an approach could be that in order to address display on whatever size of device, use tag PDF, which does exist today, which is currently being refined, and embed, let's say, a CSS3 file inside the PDF, so that a device intending to present this PDF, which is, let's say, a small form factor device, gives the user an option to create an alternative representation, and not just some default HTML basic reflow appearance of the content, but a styled appearance. And CSS3 has become quite powerful. We have learned it's not just one specification, it's a group of specifications, still evolving, but we all, I think, know what is behind CSS3. And I could do some interesting styling of the content for the purpose of user-friendliness, for the purpose of branding, because a lot of the stakeholders in the industry are brand owners who want to ensure their content, wherever it's displayed, is displayed in a certain way, using certain colors and certain arrangements on the canvas. And CSS3 also is in a position to react to the form factor. So it could be saying different things on a smaller device, on a medium-sized device, on a larger device. And that would open up quite a number of interesting things. There's even a CSS speech module that explains how to convert content into speech using certain aspects. Bill was referring to it as well this morning. So you can make a choice between voices, you can adjust the speed, the stress of the voice and stuff like that. You can make the rendering to a voice nicer, more interesting, more suitable to the content. The interesting aspect of this, I believe, is you don't have to invent it. There is already CSS3. There's already a CSS speech module. So it's just there, it exists. There's technology like WebKit and other pieces that help you take advantage of it. And that the payload for this information, for on one side tag PDF, and then CSS3 code, is not very big. Yeah? You can do amazing things with the CSS3 file of just 10 kilobytes. So it's not heavy. And it's also not necessarily a heavy burden on an implementer, because they can grab technology that exists, that they may be using already, and put together something on top of a PDF viewer as we know it today to offer interesting additional options. So in this approach, we don't have any reduplication of content payload, because the text is there, the images are there, they will just be used again for this other rendition. No reduplication of resources, so for the text rendering, you could use the embedded fonts. It might not be trivial, but it could be done. And the overhead is really minimal. That's my dream. And we're discussing stuff like this already with some folks involved in PDF standardization. If it ever happens, it's probably rather 5 years away or whatever. It's not happening next year. But I find the concept quite appealing. Not a lot of effort, at least for the hybrid approach. Some effort definitely for the lightweight approach of PDF. Nothing you do in an afternoon, not even in a year, so that such a thing will probably take a few years. But I think it would be very worthwhile and would add to the power that PDF already has. That's it. Thank you. Any questions?